Glenn, what do you think about the situation, especially in the last 2 months, essentially, that we find Bitcoin in? It hasn't budged since like November 8th, stuck around 16,000 and change. Why this incredible lack of volatility?
This is true, but I'm just looking at the graph, the big graph that Abigail, your correspondent, was showing just before the break. It was really fascinating when you look at it on that big scale like that, because you see what we've been pointing out for years and years, which is that you get these big trends with crypto, up and down and up and down, these big waves that last for a few years and then back down and then another one and another one. And, this can't go on forever and ever, right? We're not going to be sitting here in hundreds of years' time with the same kind of pattern of waves. But it has held firm really well so far. And it's reflected in a really interesting report I read from the Man Group just before Christmas, which showed that a trend-following strategy performed on Bitcoin and Ethereum has outperformed buy and hold. It's been extremely effective. Really, that's what I've been doing for years and years. I buy as each new trend begins, and then once there's all the froth, and you always know when you're at the frothy time because everybody's going crazy about crypto, and that's the time I always start to think about selling. And so far that has worked several times in a row. As I say, you can't be sure that it will continue to work forever, but so far always the waves.
Okay, so once we get out of this period of stasis, is it more likely we get a break to the up or downside in your view, Glenn?
Well, look, we can't definitively say that we've had the very last bit of downward movement. Certainly loads of on-chain data and the various indicators that we use to try and see where we are in a cycle are telling us that we're pretty much at the bottom. But I know from past experience that even when the indicators tell you you're at the bottom, you might get one more lurch downwards. I mean, we got a huge lurch downwards. You might remember in 2020, just before the bull market began, because the pandemic caused everybody to panic and everybody rushed out of stocks and crypto, but then they all rushed back into crypto and the big bull market began. Mm-hmm. So yeah, as I say, you can't rule out another lurch downwards. But as I say, as a trend follower, I tend to wait until I see, really clear signs that we're back at the beginning of an upward trend. For example, on my personal account, I didn't really start buying until we got to about $10,000. And in 2020, the price had previously gone as low as, I think, about, $3,000, $4,000. So I waited quite a while. I missed quite a lot of upside, but got in with plenty more upside to go, of course.
Glenn, when you refer to they were rushing out and then rushing back into crypto, who realistically are we talking about? Are we talking about retail or are we talking about institutions? Is there still institutional buy-in after all of the turmoil we have seen?
Well, there's not a lot of institutional buy-in right now, but I can pretty much guarantee that there will be again, simply because it's on their menu now. It's on their radar. And the report that I mentioned from Man Group, who are, of course, a huge asset manager, was very positive about the idea of crypto as an asset class. And the report even suggested, actually, that if you don't invest in crypto in the longer term, then you are, in a sense, exposed to it in a negative way, because companies that you are exposed to might be pushed out of the market eventually by crypto or blockchain-based competitors. So, that report was suggesting that you kind of need to have exposure. I hope I'm not paraphrasing them too much, but that was what I took from it.
Glenn, is it important to get regulation, for crypto or Bitcoin specifically? Because this cryptocurrency, it felt like, was invented to circumvent that kind of centralized government control. Like, do we even want it?
I want to see a lot more skepticism generally during the bull phases. I mean, we're never short of skepticism during the bear phases, but people like the next guy that you've got coming on, Stephen Deal, who was kind of shouting about the negatives during the bull market. Nobody was listening to him then. They're all listening to him now, of course, but it's too late for that. During the bull phases, we need people to look at things like Luna, when you had 20% yields being offered unencumbered on people's money. You know, I was looking at that at the time. People were asking me about it, and I was saying, well, that sounds very suspicious. I don't know if there's a problem with the code, but 20% yield, you know, if it's in traditional finance, you would start asking serious questions. And the same needs to happen in crypto. People just shouldn't get too overexcited on the upside.